Welcome to Live with the Mama's Physio. I'm your host, Ibi Afolabi, mom to 3 incredible kids, passionate pelvic health physiotherapist, and creative entrepreneur. I invite you to pull up a chair, grab a coffee, and join our conversation as I chat with some really amazing people about bodies, birth, womanhood, and whatever else might come up. Ready to go? Let's do this. Well, hello everybody. I want to welcome you to our very first episode of Live with the Mama's Physio. Our very first guest was the lovely Andrea of AndFit Training Studio, and we sat down yesterday and had a great conversation. The last time I saw her was when I was pregnant, I think about to give birth to my 3rd child, which was this time last year. And then we kind of played phone and email tag for a year before we actually managed to see each other. How crazy is that, right? Like, it's the life of a mom boss, right? Since a year ago, she has moved into a bigger space and she has grown her business significantly. So it has been really, really cool to kind of watch that from the background. Now, if you guys do not know Andrea, she is a lot of fun. She is energetic and she is just really real, okay? You can't help but love her and her authenticity. You know, at first glance, you kind of look at Andrea and you see this gorgeous, fit, and vibrant woman. And it's easy to maybe feel a bit intimidated by that, especially if you're maybe not in the best shape and you feel kind of bad about your body and you're going to her studio. So yeah, she is all of those things. She is gorgeous and fit and vibrant, but she also is the most open person, has the most welcoming attitude with no judgment at all. And it's something that really struck me when I first met her. So yesterday she showed me around her new space, and she has managed to create a really phenomenal studio where women can feel totally safe coming and just being. Andrea offers personal training for women of all ages, and she seems to attract a lot of moms, maybe because she herself is a mom to 2 kids. She does indoor small group training, she does outdoor training, she does Stroller Fitness, and she also does one-on-one training in her studio. So she is killing it. She's doing a really great job, and I'm just so proud of her. Now, the story of how AndFit came into being is pretty neat, and I will let her share it with our interview. But you can also listen in on the rest of our conversation where we talk about pelvic health, personal training, and you are living with a pelvic health condition, whether that's incontinence, a pelvic organ prolapse, diastasis recti, core pain, pelvic pain, any of that. Not only do I definitely suggest you get checked by a pelvic floor physiotherapist, but if you have been cleared and you want to participate in personal training or group fitness training, then definitely listen in on this interview as we have some great tips and tidbits for you. So without further ado, here is Andrea. All right, so Andrea, thank you so much for being my guest today. And I wanted to know how you got into this field, how you got into this line of work, and what exactly it is you do.
So I guess my journey into women's fitness started about 6 years ago when I had my daughter. I was trying to use fitness as a form of stress relief and also dealing with some postpartum depression that I was dealing with. And I started realizing that I felt so much better when I was out exercising and taking care of myself first. And then I really wanted to help women feel good about themselves postpartum or also while they were pregnant. So I was actually in the mental health counseling field before this and decided to go back, and I did all my certifications for certified personal trainer. I've also done a pre- and postnatal fitness instructor certification, and I also have some certifications in pelvic floor health and core rehab as well, through an awesome certification company as well. So yeah, that's kind of basically like becoming a mom. Kind of kickstarted that for me because I just realized that through my own fitness journey, there's a lot of misinformation about retraining postnatally, training postnatally, and also when you're pregnant as well.
Right. Well, that's really great. I actually wanted to ask when you became aware of pelvic health, because I know a lot of personal trainers, just in general, they are completely clueless. They don't know what the pelvic floor is. They don't know how important it is. They don't know potential dysfunction that can occur. And so, yeah, how did you become an aware trainer?
So when I first started working out after I had my daughter, she's my first, I noticed that my stomach wasn't going back to, everybody's stomach changes with birth, but I was still having a lot of like low back discomfort. And I also noticed like when I would sit up, I was having doming in my stomach. So down the center line of my abs. And I was like asking certain trainers and people, and no one really had an answer for me. So through just my own research and education, I started to realize, I have like an abdominal separation. And there was also some other things going on like that nobody ever talks about, but a lot of times happening, like when like I had a cesarean, right? So everybody thinks, while you have a cesarean that everything is fine with your vagina. But like when we started to have intercourse again after having Aria, things didn't feel great. Right. So I think a lot of women don't realize that you can have pelvic floor tightness, and having too tight of a pelvic floor leads to weakness, which can lead to low back pain. Right. So all of this made so much sense to me, and I was like, why didn't anybody tell me this? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Often when people, if they've heard of the pelvic floor, they often think it's too weak, right? Or postpartum, it's going to be flabby, for lack of a better term. Although I've actually heard people use that term before. So kind of weak and overstretched and flabby. But you're right. It's like any other muscle in your body where it can be too tight or too loose, right. Or hypertonic or hypotonic, and so it's important, I think, for trainers in many different types of fitness, whether it's yoga or Pilates or high impact or CrossFit or whatever, to realize it's not just all about trying to strengthen the pelvic floor, because you're presuming that it's weak in the first place, and it might not be, or you're presuming that it's kind of lax, and it might not be, right? So my big thing is everyone should be getting checked so that they know where to start, and then work with someone if they want to do personal training who's knowledgeable about the pelvic floor and its different manifestations, how it can be, whether on one end of the scale or on the other or somewhere in between. So absolutely. It's awesome.
And I was really fortunate to have connected with a great pelvic floor physiotherapist, and I noticed within a couple sessions of going for myself that what a difference. Yeah. And I did my homework and really listened to the recommendations that I was given. And then I also did some mentoring. After I had done all my certifications, I had done some mentoring with that pelvic floor physiotherapist and some more certifications. And then just having the personal experience plus the professional training as well really, really helped. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what is the biggest reason that women come to see you and work with you?
I think initially, women, they have this idea, there's a lot of societal pressure that, quote unquote, I want to get my body back. Right. And I 100% get it, because I had the exact same mindset. But I think after coming to me, or the studio and meeting the other trainers, they start to realize that it's so much more than just about the physical side, that like this is a safe place to, I think women come here to have, take care of their mental health, feel supported, whether that's mentally or physically, feel supported, like learning about their bodies, how they change. And I think there's so much misinformation about just how much they do change. And I think that, obviously we've heard like the cliche saying like knowledge is power, but it's so true, right? I'm not saying you can never exercise again or you can never go back to the activities that you were once doing, but I say that it has to be scaled. Because I was that person that didn't scale it, and then I had to stop myself and then go back to square one, where I'm trying to tell women that, if we slowly work up to it, you build a strong foundation, like basically retrain before you train. Right. So not getting stuck in, wrong movement patterns or having these, I'm the same, like having these moving a certain way all the time because I think it's right, but it's not, and then it causing problems down the road for me. So I just think that I think they come here because they feel safe and there's a level of trust that we're going to do our best to, build that trusting relationship with them and help them achieve the goals that they want while it being fun, safe, and enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that women, we have all kinds of motivations that we don't sometimes consciously realize. And one thing that's been powerful for me, just generally speaking for personal development, is to ask myself why. Like, okay, there's something I want to do. Now, what's behind that? Is it some insecurity, right? Or is it some fear of or some idea that I need to look a certain way or be a certain way, or you know what I mean? And there's all of these pressures from society, but also from within that we place on ourselves to achieve something, and particularly physically, right? Women, after they have their babies, yes, their bodies change, and our bodies are changing all the time. Our bodies are adaptable, right? We can change them based on what we feed them or how we move and stuff, right? And babies change your bodies, but it's not inevitable that you're going to always look like that or feel like that, right? And we can affect change. So yeah, when it comes to particularly personal training, I find that a lot of women, maybe initially their motivation is, I want to look a certain way, like you said. And then when they come here, they discover, like you said, it's so much more than that. It's not just looking a certain way. It's feeling confident and competent and happy with your body, regardless of how it looks, realizing that it can change over time. Yeah.
And I agree. And I think that having that really healthy outlook at first will bring about positive physical change over time if you're consistent and you will feel those awesome, like feeling better, mentally and physically stronger. If you're moving your body better and it's stronger, then you're not gonna be in pain or you're not gonna be as tired. And but then down the road, you will see some changes. I don't, and the other thing too is like, I don't want to completely discount the fact that, I get it, right? Like looking a certain way, I think it is important that we are happy with ourselves, but trying to just have a more holistic look at it instead of just saying, I'm only going to focus on this one part. Right. Yeah, and I think that's something that's taken me a while to get to that point. And I'm not saying like, I never thought, because I said, right, like that was my one goal. I was like, oh my gosh, I gained a significant amount of weight with my first pregnancy, and I'd never been that heavy in my entire life. And it was a big shock for me. And my number one goal when I was like, after I had my daughter, was to lose it. Right. And I didn't care who said anything to me or, like I was going to get there. But, I also learned a lot by going in that direction. And I also, it also took a toll on my body. as well.
Right.
So
yeah, you're right. We shouldn't discount women's desire to want to look a certain way. I think it's just as valid as everything else. And it can be a starting point, right, for other learning, like you said. One thing you said was with consistency. So how do you encourage and motivate and inspire the women that you train to be consistent? Because that's kind of a huge piece, right?
yeah, so a majority of the women that come to the studio are moms. Not every woman that comes here is a mom, and like we are that's what I love about this studio is that like we have women who come here who are in their like 50s, 60s, you know, all the way down I think to the youngest member is like 18. She comes with her mom. But to kind of go back to what you were saying is consistency is so important. I think with just a lot of things that we do in life. But if you do have goals, small little daily habits build up to supporting your long-term goals. And I think one of the things that I say, especially for the moms that come to class, especially if they're first-time moms, is, you know, if you have been up all night, you know, or you're just not feeling great that day, try to come and just do maybe 30% of what you normally do. And I guarantee you that just getting out, chatting with other women, you will feel 100 times better than if you stayed at home. Right. Now, I know that's easier said than done, right? Like sometimes it's very difficult for women to get out of the house for various reasons. But we just try to be very understanding about like, you know, if you're going to be 15 minutes late, be 15 minutes late. That's okay. Right. Still come. Right. Still come in. If you've spent all morning getting ready, you know, and you're running 20 minutes behind, just shoot me a text message or one of the instructors a text message and say like, I'm running behind, but I'm going to be there. And we will do our best to like, if we're out at the park, we'll meet up with you, or if it's in the studio, like there's a spot for you. So just I think that helps. Having that understanding can support that consistency. And I also think it creates accountability as well, right? Like having that relationship with the clients, that knowing that you've got to be there for your, you know, with your, you know, your women friend that you're meeting up with, you know, your women friends, and I'm going to be there to work out with you, and you're going to keep me accountable, and I'm going to keep you accountable, right? And because we've all signed up for something before that maybe we might not have followed through with it, but I think having this community here that we've built at the studio helps people stay consistent, helps, you know, people feel good about coming here, which makes them want to come back. So I think that's kind of one of the main, just having support helps people reach their goals and stay consistent.
Yeah. No, that's really huge. And one thing I love about working with women is that relationship building aspect. And once you build that relationship, you feel comfortable to share more personal details about your life, such as potentially pelvic health issues and I'm sure the ladies in your classes talk about these things because they feel like this is a safe place where I can share those things. So when, I guess, how do people share that with you? And then what do you do with that information? How do you potentially like refer them on, or are they even open to something like that?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, right? Because it's like if you've just met someone for the first time, like, hi, how are you? My name's Andrea, and let's talk about what's going on potentially with your pelvic floor or your vagina, right? Like it's not like a common, it's not a common conversation, which should be. It should be. But I'm just like forward about it. I'm forward about it, and I can usually pick up on vibes if someone's not open to it. But honestly, though, women, if something's going on that's not feeling right, more than likely they want to talk about it. They want to find and asking the right questions. Asking the right questions, I think. So like usually trying to find out if someone's coming in and they're postpartum, finding out like, you know, how have things been going, right? Like have you seen a pelvic floor physiotherapist? Are you having any leaking with like coughing or sneezing? And sometimes I hear like, Oh, well, not really. Well, not really. It's like, okay, well, like, does it happen or it
Right.
doesn't happen, right? Like, are you having pain or discomfort? And a big one that everybody is so, like, they feel uncomfortable to talk about is like, well, like, if are you having intercourse again? And if you are, is it painful? Like,
Right.
Usually asking certain questions, I know to ask another question. It's,
Right.
and and sometimes just sharing and being open myself
Yeah, that's good.
I'll say, if you don't feel comfortable sharing it right now, you're always welcome to email me or, approach me after class and we can talk about it, right? So not everybody's got a different comfort level. But I think just, or like one woman maybe talking about something in the class and then it'll, spur conversation where, like, especially in some of our prenatal classes, like, oh, I didn't know that. Or a couple of the women in my prenatal classes have gone to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist before they've had their first baby, which I love. Huge, which is huge, right? Like, you want to know how to engage your pelvic floor or relax it before you have a baby. I wish I had done that. But like, and then there's women in the class who are in their 50s and 60s and still having issues maybe with incontinence. Women in the class that have had, hysterectomies. And then I have women in the class who haven't had babies who may be experiencing incontinence, right? And I think that's another population of women that, they think, oh, well, that's just normal, right? Like, oh, well, I haven't had a baby. Or when I do, when I exert myself during exercise, or I cough or I sneeze or I run or I jump, I get a little bit leaking, like, that's normal, right? Yeah. So I think that just if I do discover that there is something going on, then I definitely recommend to go see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. I'd ask some more questions based on what's going on. I might help them with maybe it's posture or alignment or how they're moving, or maybe it has something to do with, how they're squatting or like maybe just managing intra-abdominal pressure by breathing better or practicing the core breath, right? So like, I think we were talking about this earlier, it's not one size fits all treatment, right? And that's why, like, I can do an external assessment, but I can't do an internal assessment. That's out of my scope of practice, obviously, right? But just working with great women in the community that offer these services and just connecting and referring when I feel that referral is necessary, right? And I always just encourage women to go get a baseline exam. So then if they are going to start exercising, then they know where their baseline is at. So if something changes, then they know, okay, hey, like, I have to go in for, I call it a tune-up.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
You gotta take care. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you go and get your teeth cleaned every so often, right? It's like, maintenance. You gotta take care of your body.
Totally.
So, and the pelvic floor gets neglected because I think you can't see it. It's not like a bicep, right? So you can't see it, or, you know what I mean? It's not on the outside of your body. Right. So we have a hard time visualizing it or even maybe being aware of it. So that's kind of...
No, that's really good. Well, you already touched on what my next question was a little bit, but maybe you can expand some more. So you have a class full of 12, 15, 20 women, however many women it is. And that they're each at a different level or place with their pelvic health. So how do you modify your classes? How do you meet each woman kind of with what she needs without overdoing or underdoing it?
Right. That's a really good question. So myself and the other instructors here at the studio, we will often... I usually give 3 levels of modifications. So if there's somebody in the class who's expecting, then I'll usually give a modification for that. Or if there's somebody who has maybe an abdominal separation and we're moving into a core movement, or something that might, if I know that there's somebody in the class that has an abdominal separation, I'll give a modification for that. Or if there's somebody who's a little bit more advanced in their fitness and wants to, up level their intensity a little bit, I'll say, well, if you want to intensify the exercise, then add this movement in as well. So, and I think that's how it should be, right? And the other thing too is like some people might in the class start with a more advanced movement and be like, okay, no, like I need to pull it back a bit, or I'm feeling good today. And I think it's just we talk a lot about like checking in with yourself.
Nice.
And just having that awareness that like, yes, I want to work hard. I want to work on my goals, but I'm not here to hurt myself.
Exactly.
And that's basically because if you hurt yourself, well, then you're not going to be able to exercise anymore.
Right.
Well, at least for a period of time, right? So we are trying to prevent people from overdoing it, but still meeting them where they're at in their goals, right? So that's kind of, I usually give 3 levels of modifications.
Good.
And I think that has just come with, teaching so many classes, right? And just thinking like, okay, yeah, this might be an easy exercise for myself, but what about somebody who's just starting? Right. And that just comes with like, the smaller classes and knowing who's first class, have they exercised in the last 3 months, or basically like just having that open conversation with somebody who comes in and just trying to screen for potential issues, right? And just keep checking in with people, basically.
Right, and you were telling me when we were speaking earlier about this intake form that you do, which I think is awesome, and I personally think every personal trainer should do something like that. I mean, I don't know if they do, but it would be great if they did. And it's awesome that you do, and you ask those questions about their pelvic health. And I think part of the problem, although it's starting to change now, is that healthcare professionals and healthcare practitioners and personal trainers and that whole group of people, we've not been asking the questions, right? Women are not going to share if we don't ask. And so it's great that you're like, hey, I want to know about your pelvic floor. I'm going to even ask about your sex life. Like, does it hurt? Because it shouldn't, right? Absolutely. And this can give you clues as to what might be going on. And then women can really get the care that they need and heal up holistically, like from the inside out, right? Instead of just surface stuff. You know what I mean?
And and I just think, like you said, like it's that holistic piece is, really feeling like you can take care of your, the clients and the women that are coming in here, that, they're not just another number, and that like we value them and we see them and we want them to have the best experience here. And I think that's with asking those questions, right? Exactly. And really, and knowing what's going on for them, and not everybody is comfortable sharing, but eventually I do, like if I see someone who's been struggling with one issue, right, and keep checking in with them, like, how is that going, right? Whatever it might be. So just, I think, just really trying to keep connecting with the women that come here and making sure that they're getting the best experience as possible. Right. Yeah.
I think that's one of the advantages of having a smaller fitness studio. You build that tribe, you build that your kind of circle of ladies, right? And you build that rapport and that trust with you. Like they know you, they know their instructor. They feel safe, and I know that women are more motivated and they're going to thrive and actually more likely to meet their goals if they have that smaller setup. So how many women do you typically see?
Yeah, so right now, like the studio, it can't hold no more than about 20 women. 20 women, and then sometimes we'll have their little ones in here as well. Yeah. So it's like 20 plus one sometimes, or like 0.5. As I say sometimes. But between like max 15, 20. Same thing for like stroller, no more than 15.
Good.
And that way, it takes me a bit, but then I know everybody's names. The same with the other instructors as well, right? I know everybody's names. And we can just kind of keep checking in with them, and you know what I mean? So that is how we try to cap the classes at a good number to make sure that everybody's, doing the exercises properly, and that everybody gets, that individualized attention still, right? Yeah.
And speaking of Stroller Fitness, you have your registration open now for the spring season, right?
Yeah. For so we've already started, but the next session starts mid-May.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do strongly recommend that if you're thinking about doing one of the outdoor fitness classes like Stroller, that you start, and especially if you've had a baby at any point, right? Whether that's like 3 months or, like 3 years, that you do, before you start doing more high impact exercise or any exercise, that you go see pelvic floor physiotherapist and then start with the indoor classes.
Okay, nice.
So like a progression, right?
Gotcha.
Start with the indoor classes first, get strong, get that body awareness, and then we can move into something that will eventually incorporate a little bit of running. We do build up to it. It's not like we start like day one, right? Like crazy, but we build up to it, and we work on just like simple, basic movement patterns, and then we kind of build up from there.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's great. So many moms, they have their baby. They have this random 6-week or whatever deadline to get back into their skinny jeans in their head. I do not know where that comes from. And they're like, okay, more is more. So I'm going to just go hard and be super intense and hopefully get back into those jeans, right? So I love that you first, you take it slow, because you really have to, right? I mean, you've had a baby. That was that was an experience. Plus, you were growing this tiny human being for 9 months, right? So you're not going to just snap back. And I hate it when people say you're bouncing back or snapping back. That does not really happen for the majority of women. We know that it takes a year, really, for most women to get back to some semblance of normal. So it's so great that you have that programming indoor first, and then taking it to a higher level when women can actually get there.
Yeah, I think it's just really important, once again, that women don't overdo it at first, right?
Yes.
And you may feel great, you know what I mean? But there's so much stuff that changed internally to accommodate for growing a baby, or maybe it was like more than one, right? If you had had twins or multiples, and just really honoring that it does take time. And it's hard because we live in a society where, we want everything immediately, and just trying to be like, okay, we can get there, but let's just try to take it a little bit slower.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So I had written a blog. Let me just pull it up here. It is called 5 things to know before you sign up for Stroller Bootcamp. If you guys want to check it out, it's on the Mamas Physio's blog. So www.themamasphysio.com/stroller-bootcamp. So I had written 5 tips, and I'm just going to read them quickly out. And I want to ask you, Andrea, if you have anything else you want to add to that. Okay, so the first thing that you need to consider before signing up for Stroller Bootcamp, or really any kind of boot campy type higher intensity exercises, is, first of all, respect your body. The second one is how you move matters, in other words, form and technique. The third one is to work with a knowledgeable instructor. I think that is huge. The fourth thing is not to continue to push through dysfunction. And the last one is to get your pelvic floor, abdominal wall, and core checked, ideally before you start. Is there anything else you would want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think you cover some really good points. And I think that's so important, just that you get a baseline for getting your pelvic floor, your core, and your movement, you know, and that is a hard thing because like sometimes we'll feel great and then we'll start exercising and then you are experiencing some dysfunction and then you just keep pushing through it. Right. And that's our body's way of telling us that something's not right.
Exactly.
And, you know, we listen to our mother's intuition for everything else, but sometimes we put ourselves on the back burner. And I think maybe that, you know, you will be able to be a better mom, a better partner, you know, and feel so much better about yourself if you can put yourself first. And that's really hard, I think, for some women to change that mindset after you've had a baby because you're like so focused on your kids. And I just realized that if I tried to have a little bit of focus on, you know, on myself and trying to take some time for myself and make sure I was good, then I was a better mom. I felt better. I had more patience, things like that. Right. So I think that's a great list.
Awesome. Well, from the blog again, I just want to wrap up, guys, by reading a quick list of 9 things to look for in a really great instructor. So a great instructor is someone who does not make you feel like an idiot for working at your own pace, someone that you feel safe sharing information with, in other words, that you perhaps leak a little bit with running or jumping. She will not overtrain you or potentially cause further damage to your joints, ligaments, muscles, pelvic floor, or abdominal wall. She will encourage you to listen to your own body. She will have options for changing intensity levels or modifying the exercises so it is safe for you. And she will be knowledgeable about the core and pelvic floor. Also, especially if you had a baby, she should have some training in pre- and postnatal fitness. And she'll also advise you to seek out care from a pelvic floor physio if you have any pelvic symptoms. She'll even go so far as to recommend you hold off on Stroller Bootcamp if it is clear that you should be focusing more on restorative programming first. So I am with Andrea of AndFit, and she fits all of that. I have had a number of clients work with her, and they have all had rave reviews, and she's just really knowledgeable person here in London to be working with if you are looking for women's fitness, pre and postnatal fitness, or outdoor stroller fitness. She definitely, through her own experience and through her training, is aware and knowledgeable. So I highly recommend you guys check her out. Her website is andfit.com. .ca. AndFit.ca. I always get .com and .ca mixed up. And yeah, she would be happy to answer any of your questions. So yeah, just check it out. And Andrea, any last words? It's been really great chatting with you today, but do you have any last words, anything else you want to wrap up or share that might be coming up in your
just if you have any other questions or you wanted to connect with us at the studio, you can reach out to us at www.andfit.ca, or you can send me an email, andrea@andfit.ca. Well, thank you so much, Ibby. I really appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye now. Well, there you go. I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Andrea and got as much out of it as I did. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time on Live with the Mama's Physio.